There were around 30 kids in my class. Between the ages of around 8 and 12, every year we took standardized tests. Everyone took them. And every year, the kids who scored high enough were invited to something called the Alert program. It was an accelerated learning program. Once every other week, they would leave school and go to another campus for the entire day. Out of 30 kids, about 25 were invited. 5 of us stayed behind. I was one of the 5. And when you're 9 or 10 years old, you don't analyze that, you absorb it. No one ever told me I wasn't smart. But when 25 kids get called out of a class and you don't, you learn something anyway. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Clay Johnson. I leverage my own life experiences to connect with others on matters of the heart through inspiring stories and moving discussions. I grew up in a small conservative town in South Carolina. I've now lived abroad for nearly 20 years, worked across the US, EMEA, and APAC, and built a global career in HR leadership. But today, I want to talk about something that followed me from that elementary school classroom into senior leadership roles around the world. Imposter syndrome. For most of my early career, especially every time I stepped into a more senior role, I had the same thought. Why me? Do I really have what it takes? Am I about to be exposed? Every promotion felt less like validation and more like escalation. Like I had somehow skipped a step and was hoping no one would notice. And here's what's interesting. Every time, it worked out. I learned the role. I performed well. I got promoted again. But the doubt would return with the next level. That's the thing about beliefs formed between 8 and 12 years old. They don't disappear just because you grow up. They wait. I was never really pushed academically. I was gently encouraged to get good grades, but there wasn't a strong emphasis on learning for the sake of learning. I don't blame my parents. They did the best they could with what they knew. They went straight to work after high school. I was the first in my immediate family to graduate from college. But when I got to college, I remember feeling behind, like everyone else knew something I didn't. I wondered if maybe I just wasn't wired the same. Then I left South Carolina. When I moved to Washington, D.C., I suddenly found myself surrounded by people who felt more polished, more sophisticated, more worldly. They referenced books I hadn't read, schools I hadn't considered, experiences I'd never had. And that old belief would whisper, you don't really belong here. Then came the promotions. Bigger scope, more visibility, more responsibility. And in rooms with leaders more senior than me, I would look around and think, they're smarter, they're sharper, they know more, and somehow I'm here. That's imposter syndrome, not incompetence. Identity lag. Your external life evolves faster than your internal story. My title changed, my geography changed, my level of responsibility changed, but somewhere inside, I was still one of the 5 kids who didn't get called into Alert. What's different now? I don't feel nearly as much. Why? Because I've gathered evidence. I may never describe myself as the most book smart person in the room, and I've made peace with that. But I am emotionally intelligent. I read people well. I build trust. I'm a quick learner. When I apply myself, I figure things out. And I genuinely enjoy learning now. Maybe I wasn't the kid who tested well, but I became the person who learns well. And that counts. It counts that I kept saying yes even when I doubted myself. It counts that every leap I took, despite the fear, expanded my world. It counts that I built a life that the 9-year-old version of me couldn't have imagined. And maybe the 5 of us who stayed behind weren't less capable. Maybe we just hadn't found our way yet. If you've ever sat in a room and thought, why me? Maybe the better question is, why not me? As I said, I may never feel 100% book smart, but I know this. I've built a meaningful career. I've navigated cultures across the world. I've grown. I've adapted. I've contributed. And that doesn't happen by accident. It counts. Thank you for listening. And if this resonated, share it with someone who might still feel like they're waiting to be called out of the classroom. Until next time.